Twist of Fate update Tuesday 4 January 2022. For more updates don't forget to subscribe. Pragya calls Meera. Aaliyah says she is not here, her contract got over and that's why she left. She asks, "Do you have any more witnesses to your marriage?" Pragya tells the lady inspector that there is an eyewitness to their marriage, and tells about the pandit who had conducted their marriage. Aaliyah says she is lying and will run away from here. Pragya says, "Why will I run from here? Who is getting inside?" Inspector says she will send her team to bring the pandit. Sarita Bayan thinks to go out and worries for Pragya. She then thinks what if Prachi and Shahana ask her, thinks it is 2 a.m. and Pragya didn't come. She tells that she couldn't stop her from going to meet her husband. She tells that she feels a connection with her and prays to God to support Pragya and handle her. Constable brings Pandit to the house. Pragya asks Pandit Ji the inspector called him to witness their marriage. Pandit Ji says, "Yes, I have solemnized your marriage and I got dakshina from you both." He says he will give his statement. Mitali asks Pallavi if it is right to give a wrong statement after witnessing their marriage. Pallavi says she will save Abhi's family from Pragya's bad sight and will do whatever Aaliyah asks her to do. Mitali says what if Pragya proves that she is Abhi's wife, she will return with all the proofs. Taiji asks what if Pragya proves that marriage had happened, then what will happen? Aaliyah says either we will lose from Pragya or she will lose her everything today. Pragya comes there with Pandit and says, "You had said that if I prove that I am his wife, then nobody can stop me from meeting my husband." Inspector says the law says this, not me. She questions Pandit Ji if he got Pragya's marriage done in the temple 3 days back. Pandit Ji says he had done the marriage with all the rituals and mantras. Aaliyah is shocked. Mitali asks if Haven Kund was there. Pandit Ji says yes, that marriage happened. Pragya says the marriage happened 3 days back and the divorce which Aaliyah is talking about is 15 years back. She says my marriage is valid and there is no importance of the papers. Aaliyah asks if the divorce papers are not valued. Pragya says I am his wife and didn't divorce him. She says doesn't know what happened to these family members and says she sits in someone's mandap or gets someone kidnapped from the mandap. Aaliyah shouts at her. Pragya asks her not to shout and say if I want then I can call your husband here, and he will prove. She says I am Bahu of this house, your Durrani, and tells that this is proved that I am Abhishek Mehra's wife and you people can't stop me from meeting my husband. She tells Aaliyah that she will get her arrested. Pandit Ji says forgive me, but I can't do this. Does Pragya ask what happened? Pandit Ji says whatever you said and lies to inspector that he can't do a big sin. He says he can't support her lie. Pragya is shocked. Pallavi and Aaliyah look on. Pandit Ji tells that Pragya asked me to tell them that he had solemnized their marriage, but he didn't do. Pragya says why are you lying? Aaliyah smiles and recalls telling Pandit Ji that he has to lie, as Pragya married him for money, and tried to kill him. She emotionally blackmails him and asks him to talk to the hospital. Pandit Ji says it is sin to lie. Aaliyah asks him to say lie for saving her brother. She says I will touch your feet. Pandit Ji says I will lie to protect your brother. Aaliyah thanks him and gives him the money. Pandit Ji refuses. Aaliyah says this money is for the temple. Pandit Ji refuses. FB ends. Aaliyah thinks Pandit Ji's acting is good. Pragya asks Pandit Ji to say the truth. He says he can't lie anymore. Aaliyah says enough. Pragya says you have given money to him and tells Pandit Ji that her life will be ruined due to his statement. Aaliyah asks Inspector to take her and imprison her for life, else she will complain to the commissioner against her. Inspector says I did a big mistake. Pragya says they all are lying. Aaliyah smiles as Inspector and Constable drag Pragya out. Prachi gets a call and gets shocked. Prachi says they got Ma arrested and says why are they doing this? Shahana asks her not to cry. Prachi says they think my mother is inauspicious and don't talk to her well and do this. Shahana says we have to think about how to bail her out. Prachi says, we don't know any lawyer, what we can do. Shahana says who can help us? Prachi says only Ranbir can help us. She calls him and asks for his help. She says police have arrested my mother. The lady constable asks the inspector what they shall do, as the gunghat-clad woman is not removing her veil. Inspector goes to the lock-up. Pragya tries to talk to Inspector. Inspector refuses to believe her and asks the veiled woman to remove her veil, so that they can take her pic. The veiled woman refuses to lift her veil. Inspector asks her to click a selfie and give her. Pragya asks Inspector to listen to her. Inspector refuses. Prachi, Shahana and Ranbir comes there. Ranbir asks Inspector to see the bail papers. Pragya asks how you got the money for the bail and lawyer. Prachi says she has mortgaged her birthday ring which she had given her. Constable takes her out. Inspector warns Pragya and says if she is seen near Mehra mansion then will be arrested again and this time, she will not get bailed. Pragya signs on the papers and goes. Aaliyah comes to Ray's room and finds the tin can. She says I know Bai is not with you and that's why you took the support of this. She says if Bai would have been here then would have handled you. She says Pragya is troubling her. If she had gone to Bai's room then all the secret would have been out. Prachi, Ranbir and Shahana bring Pragya home. Sarita Bayan asks Pragya how is she. Pragya says I am in the room. Sarita Bayan thanks Ranbir and asks him to sit for tea. Ranbir refuses and says he didn't tell at home, his mummy will scold him. He says bye. Prachi says bye. They look at each other. Prachi comes to Ranbir as he is about to leave. Song plays. Subhanallah plays. Ranbir asks if she wants to say something. Prachi says thank you. Ranbir says thank you. Sarita Daddy said this. He says I thought you want to say something which is said during special moments, but nothing. He says okay and asks her to take care of herself. Prachi asks him to take care. Ranbir closes the door. Prachi goes to the door and thinks I have done wrong with him, but he is even now good like before. She regrets doing bad with him. Shahana looks at her. Pragya recalls the humiliation which she had faced due to Aaliyah while trying to meet Abhi. She thinks nobody can stop me from meeting him. Sarita Bayan comes there and says I came to know everything and tells that she had called Baljit Daddy, but she didn't pick her call. She says Baljit Daddy was preparing for your Gra Pravesh. Pragya says there is something wrong happening there. Sarita Bayan says you were bailed out this time. But Pragya says nothing is easy. I have to go there and tell that she is Mr. Mehra's wife now. Sarita Bayan says Mr. Mehra is not picking the calls. Pragya says even Purab is not picking the call. Sarita Bayan says if Aaliyah sees you again then we'll call police again. She hopes they both meet soon. Pragya recalls Aaliyah asking Taiji to bring her servant from the village. Aaliyah calls Purab, but he doesn't pick her call. She calls the manager. The manager gives a call to Purab. Purab attends the call and says he is in a hotel room and had food. Aaliyah asks why are you worried? This is police work. Purab says I will find out who wants to kill Abi and Pragya D. Aaliyah asks how you will do sitting in London. Purab says I have talked to the detective agency and they will handle it. He drops the phone and sits on the bed. Mitali comes there and tells that Ria is sleeping since morning. Aaliyah says Purab is in London and doing the investigation. Mitali says he loves Abi so much and asks her to think about Ria. Aaliyah says just as she accepts the reality, she will become fine. Mitali asks how? She says you didn't see Abi, he looks so dangerous. Aaliyah asks her to mind her language. Prachi and Shahana come to the hall. Pragya asks them to brush their teeth and freshen up. Sarita Bayan gets happy seeing her fine and hugs her. Pragya says nobody can keep her away from her happiness and shows the newspaper. Prachi thinks Pragya wants to do the job. Pragya says she is thinking to do some job and will be fine if busy. Prachi goes. They go. Sarita Bayan says I understood what you want to do. Pragya asks her not to tell the girls. Sarita Bayan blesses her. Prachi brings kajal and applies black tika to her. Prachi asks Pragya, did you talk to Papa? They sit for breakfast. She says of course you might have talked. And that's why happy. Shahana asks her to beware of Ray's Bougie, Mitali and Taiji. Pragya says, do breakfast first. Sarita Bayan asks her to sit. Mitali asks the servant Vandana to listen in. Says Aaliyah will not give you salary. Vandana tells that she doesn't want to stay here for salary. And tells that Aaliyah is like a bad cat. Mitali says I will inform Aaliyah. Vandana goes from there. And collides with Pragya, who enters there with a veil on her head. Vandana tells that she was hired 2 days back and left the job. This house is like a mental asylum. Vandana tells that Aaliyah thinks of herself as the ruler and Mitali gives advice though she doesn't have a mind of her own. She says, who are you? I find your voice familiar. Pragya coughs and thinks Aaliyah will identify my voice. Mitali goes to Aaliyah and collides with her. Aaliyah scolds Mitali and asks her to send Vandana to clean the floor. Mitali says Vandana left the job due to you. Aaliyah says that servant. Mitali says she is like a queen and tells that she showed me attitude. Aaliyah asks her not to give her salary. Mitali says Vandana said that she doesn't want to and told many bad things about you. She tells everything. Aaliyah asks how did you hear all this? The doorbell rings. Aaliyah thinks Vandana has returned and goes to open the door. Pragya thinks if Aaliyah identifies me, I have to take the risk. Tanu opens the door. Pragya gets shocked seeing her, thinks she was not here till yesterday. Tanu says if you don't want to say then I will close the door. Aaliyah and Mitali come there. Pragya recalls Tanu's cheat, gets angry, and looks at her. At the college, Prachi tells Ranbir that she wants to thank her. Ranbir says you said this. Prachi says I was rude to you, but you behaved so nicely and helped me. His friend calls him. Prachi asks him to go. Ranbir asks her to say. Prachi says thank you and leaves. Ranbir says you called me with the right. Tanu and Aaliyah ask Pragya to say. Pragya tells that she has seen the advertisement and came. Mitali says she must have seen an old advertisement. She says your job is fixed. Aaliyah says let me talk to her and ask about her work experience. Pragya says wherever I work, people praise me and say you can make me do muck work in the daytime, but I will go home in the night. Tanu asks her to remove her veil. Pragya says I will not move my veil and praises her work. Aaliyah says it is enough self-appraisal, listen to my condition now.